Did you know that your imagination holds the power to sculpt your destiny? Drawing inspiration from the story of Esau and Jacob, we'll delve into how our mental states can radically transform our lives with Neville Goddard. This analysis will not only demonstrate how your mental perception constructs your reality but also unveil how aligning your thoughts can unlock an extraordinary force within you. If you're ready to uncover the hidden potential of your mind and how it can shape your future, join us on this transformative journey of self-discovery and personal growth. Prepare to alter your world from the inside out. I'd like to share my personal technique that I apply to myself and others. For newcomers, it's crucial to grasp that we firmly believe imagination gives rise to reality. And since only a supreme being has the power to create reality, your imagination and mind are connected to that supreme power we commonly refer to as God. To explain my technique, revisiting my experiences and relating them to the Bible is necessary. Genesis 25 mentions the birth of two boys to Isaac and Rebekah. After 20 years of longing for a child, Rebekah prayed to the Lord, who heard her plea. During her pregnancy, she felt an internal struggle, leading her to question the reason. The Lord revealed to her that she was carrying two nations in her womb, two peoples that would be divided, one would be stronger than the other, and the older would serve the younger. At the time of birth, a red and hairy child emerged first, followed by another grasping his brother's heel, the latter having smooth skin. The first was named Esau and the second, Jacob. The essence of this story is as follows. Jacob, remember, usurped both the birthright and the blessing of Esau. Desperate, Esau asked his father Isaac if there was any blessing left for him. Isaac told him that he would live by the sword and serve his brother but would eventually break his yoke. This was the only blessing available for his eldest son, as he had bestowed everything on Jacob, the usurper. This narrative, if taken literally, makes little sense. It doesn't refer to concrete individuals like Rebekah, Esau, or Jacob. It's a depiction of an internal drama that each of us experiences. At 7 years old, I had an experience that plunged me into an infinite ocean of time. I was both the ocean and Neville, and though the ocean seemed indifferent to my fear, I, Neville, was also the ocean. This experience recurred monthly until I was 12, marked by a sense of anticipation during the day. I dreaded sleep because doing so, I merged with this vastness. Each month, a separation occurred between the ocean and its wave, but I remained the ocean, until finally, that cycle ceased. At 21, I underwent a transformation in a different key. While contemplating samadhi as I read about Buddha's life in the light of Asia, I fell into a voluntary trance. I awoke 10 hours later, having become infinite liquid light during that time, without divisions, being all light and the only reality. Subsequently, I had other experiences that allowed me to perceive this division and recognize that I am more than this physical body. On one occasion, I projected out of my body and saw myself from outside, then consciously wished to reintegrate. This ability for separation and reintegration revealed to me the multiplicity of my being beyond flesh and bone. The story of Esau and Jacob isn't about historical individuals but an internal process. Esau, who may lack notable physical attributes, represents the first manifestation in the world, followed by Jacob, the supplanter, who is hidden and symbolizes imagination. The separation between them, induced by God, reflects an awakening of consciousness. The true blessing is the liberation from Esau's domination, allowing Jacob, the imagination, to take control. This internal dynamic is crucial for self-knowledge and personal fulfillment. My interpretation of the Bible and these personal experiences have led me to view the scriptures from a different perspective, recognizing the significance of imagination as the supreme creative force in our lives. Thus, from my being, what was necessary to trigger a manifestation of a sexual nature was extracted, after which the process halted, and I was left wounded. Half a year later, that individual chose to end his life. Everything was set in motion by that biblical passage I recited differently from his interpretation. He preferred carry his sofa, whereas I mentioned carry his bed. Yet, both terms referred simply to the object upon which one rests, being part of a larger pattern. In this way, I was tossed by that vast sea, which seemed indifferent to my plight, yet still, despite the fear, I understood that my existence would not cease, being part of a grander design to become a nucleus of creation. Thus, my perception of the Bible was transformed. What is the technique, then? At the age of 21, during a meditation, I merged with the joy I contemplated, visualizing it as an ocean of golden liquid light. There I grasped what absorption was. This was the secret: total identification with a state or name, to the point of being completely engulfed by it, was what worked. What was absorbed was not the physical garment. Esau represented Jacob, who is the embodiment of imagination. It was necessary to distinguish Jacob from Esau. 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you will be separated. One will be stronger than the other, the older will serve the younger. I discovered that what separated from that which I cared for and nurtured was my imagination. Thus, I found I could place my imagination at any point in space. I projected it onto my nephew, and when my sister saw her son, she did not recognize his face but mine, for I had left Esau to become Jacob, transforming into Billy, intending to be recognized by my sister, who, indeed, did not see her son in the bed but her brother Neville. That night, she wrote to me surprised to have seen my face instead of Billy's. When I wished to travel to Barbados without having financial resources, I placed myself in Barbados through my imagination, observing the world from there, and ultimately, my family, believing they had initiated the process, facilitated my journey. By identifying with a state, others acted as if they were driven by an automatic mechanism. This led me to ponder if I should proceed in this manner, referring again to the passage in Genesis, "You will serve your brother, and every man in the world must serve." So, if you feel good about it, you are imagining, and all beings in the world are serving you. You don't need to ask anyone in the world for help, no matter what they say. Esau can only exist as long as you keep your yoke upon his neck, and breaking that yoke, he does not perish but is perpetually before dying, so that Jacob can impose his yoke upon another neck, and in the New Testament, Jacob is identified as Jesus Christ. Here's an exercise I found particularly useful. In my home, familiar with every corner of a specific room, I sit in a chair facing a wall with my eyes closed, lean forward, and imagine not the wall in front of me, but the one behind me. I visualize that wall in my mind, now in front of me, thus the room is inverted, or it is I who is inverted. Throughout the Bible, this concept of reversibility, which I discovered upon reading, means precisely that. Then, I perceive what is behind me as if it were in front of me. Another exercise involves sitting physically in my living room in New York and assuming I am standing on the street in front of my building. From there, on the street, I observe details on the building's marquee. Physically, I'm in my living room on the 16th floor, but in my imagination, I'm on the street observing. Still in my imagination, I return to the building, ascend the stairs, and sit where Esau was, and the next time I actually go out and observe the marquee, I notice something I hadn't perceived in my last physical observation. Fortunately, when these experiences began at 7 years old, there were no psychoanalysts on the small island of Barbados, and if there had been, my father couldn't have afforded them. They wouldn't have understood what was happening to me, which was fortunate for the work I was doing. I was born there, on an island of no global significance and without psychoanalysts, so no one could interrupt what my father was facilitating to provoke that separation. This lasted 5 years, from ages 7 to 12, then I was transformed, but I didn't elevate that being until I was 21, when I began to see differently. We weren't two, but I was that, and I could say I and my father, although initially, I could only call it a tempestuous ocean. I was that and also was Neville. At 21, by fully merging with it, that separation manifested on different levels to demonstrate how one can pray. You can become anything in this world. I took a piece of wood, a flower, an animal, and tried to feel what it would be like to be that object, until I could finally feel what it would be like to be a glass of water, for everything emanates from the divine imagination, and I am that. Then, I am everything. There is nothing beyond the divine imagination, and it and the human imagination are one. Now, addressing the practical aspect, in monetary terms, a great friend of mine received a letter from another friend who is a professor and whom I respect greatly, but professors tend to be very pedantic. They are so saturated with knowledge and outdated data, especially considering recent discoveries, that they are actually filled with ignorance. humanity advances so rapidly that what is learned from books deemed accurate turns out to be incorrect. Content from unrevised texts is memorized, and a university diploma is obtained. This professor, Raymond Johnson, wrote to my friend about the title of my book, interpreting it in his way. Presumably, he took the phrase "your face, your fortune" and simply changed one word. He didn't read the book, but as the book of Proverbs says, he who answers before listening, that is his folly and his shame. He dared to respond without having heard the question, and yet, he is not just a professor but also the dean of a university faculty. This professor plans to visit our country, and I recommend listening to him. He completely rejects the concepts of faith and fortune, but his reason for coming is purely economic. He has no other motive for his visit, coming from a department based on obsolete books. What new knowledge can he offer us? I told my friend that, like many educated people, this professor possesses technical skills, and anyone can take the work inspired by mystics, write numerous books, and profit from them. His visit has the sole purpose of generating income, but I'm not talking about just any book, but the Bible. I have lived these experiences and know that the secret lies in identification with the desired ideal, whatever it may be. If what you desire is money, what's wrong with that? The visitor won't refuse the check when it's presented. Who is really deceiving whom in this world? But we are told, "Thank you, Father, because you have hidden these things from the wise and learned and revealed them to little children." So, stay close to the innocent and away from those who consider themselves wise and holy. That division occurs within you, that is God, and you don't need anyone's help, for everything was revealed to Jacob, while only the sword was given to Esau. This Esau, the physical body that transforms food into bone and blood through a tumultuous process, becomes lifeless at the precise moment it is freed from the restriction imposed by Jacob on his neck. However, this does not affect your immortal essence, for you, being immortal, are indivisible and eternal. Never allow anyone to convince you that the desire for wealth or any other aspiration is inappropriate. This Jacob, in seeking to manifest his talent, compels all others to serve him. If you manage to encounter Jacob and immerse yourself completely in that state, all the Esau's will be obliged to serve you in order to materialize that state, and no force will be able to obstruct you. Consider this: by the sword you shall live, and your brother you shall serve. Esau entered into marriage with a Canaanite, a term associated with humiliation, while Jacob chose a partner who represented the ideal, originating from the world of Laban. The garments are united with the Canaanite, and if my former teacher A.B. were to witness this, he would be horrified. He used to advise that, when faced with someone you consider important, imagine their nakedness and observe them performing the basic functions of life, which will lead you to demystify them. Jacob is the one who governs the world, with imagination being his domain. Jacob, like his father, is invisible, guiding you to the understanding of your own invisibility. When confronted with the immateriality of Jacob, you wonder how it is possible to see something without defined boundaries. The angel's response to the question about the impossibility of seeing the shadow that God casts upon the world, due to the absence of edges, reveals a profound truth. Nevertheless, upon discovering Jacob, although he lacks boundaries, he is perceived as more real than any Esau. He is everything, at all times. D.H. Lawrence, though considered a peculiar character, had a deep understanding of this reality, capable of identifying with a cow, a daisy, or even the moon. Huxley, despite his descriptive abilities, failed to grasp the essence of what Lawrence expressed. What happens within you is the work of God, who resides in the depths of your being, separating Jacob from Esau and granting everything to Jacob, ensuring that what is right never escapes his grasp. Therefore, in my prayer technique, I urge you not to assume the responsibility of acting. Once identified with the desired state, let it be. It may materialize in a day, a week, a month, or perhaps you may never hear of it again, but trust that it will come to pass, for my word shall not return void. Visualize what you desire and allow it to be true without intervention, for how can you question it if it already exists? Each time you imagine yourself as you would like to be and feel the emotion of it, you are issuing an order from Jacob. The outer being must traverse those states to fulfill it. The most profound revelations are found in the Bible. let others debate terms such as faith or fortune. Faith is the manifestation of divine power in man, justifying his needs. Thus, I feel my chair and visualize before me what is not physically present. Then, I turn, allowing this outer garment to experience what is necessary from the ages of 7 to 21, culminating in the birth of that inner being on July 21st of this year, the complete separation of that lesser being called Jesus Christ from what Esau represents. Jacob gives way to Jesus Christ, both emerging from a separation, unrelated to any dogma. If you desire good, name it, identify with it, and immerse yourself completely in it. The outer man cannot achieve it, therefore, the inner man accomplishes it. For it has been decreed that you shall serve your brother. This hairy garment, Esau, appears first, followed by Jacob, who is invisible. Regardless of who you are, this is the divine design for the awakening of his children. The outer world seems to proceed, but its purpose is to awaken the God who created it, individualizing himself in what he most desires, Jacob. We are told that the physical world is now dissolving into radiation. Therefore, when Esau is released from his yoke, he becomes lifeless. Never allow yourself to be considered insignificant. You are here so that the Son of God may separate himself from the external form by which you are recognized. Exercise that divine power for the good of all, not only wishing them well but identifying with their desires. Thus, it shall be fulfilled, without the need for intervention. They will adjust to what you have manifested. It matters not who they are, whether they are simple or learned individuals, those titles are bestowed by Esau. Your focus should be on Jacob. Isaiah 49 states, "He who formed me from the womb to be his servant, to bring Jacob back to him." In your Bible, you will find how to discover him. Although Jacob may seem small, he will prevail. I know this, for I was cast by the infinite ocean and understood that, even if it did not care, there was a purpose behind it. I was thrown by its vastness, fearing sleep when I sensed those nights approaching. Upon closing my eyes, that separation occurred. I was being extracted from himself, that great ocean of life. By understanding this, you will grasp the true meaning of the flood and the story of the ark. My essential technique consists of sitting quietly, not lying down to avoid the association with sleep. Imagine and immerse yourself completely, identifying with the desire of another as if it had already been realized. For me, it becomes real, and they appear before me, sharing exciting news of their dreams come true. Even if they are physically afflicted, it does not matter, because that is only Esau, and I know that he must traverse certain states to give way to Jacob. I am not concerned if the next day they recount an even more terrible story. It does not matter, because they emerged when Jacob issued the order, and all the victories of the universe were granted to Jacob, who must be served. If they inform me that they were fired, I will respond good, knowing that the dismissal was the turning point to reach their desires. They may forget how it happened, but you must not forget that it was Jacob who gave the order. Now, invoke that new name, Christ Jesus. When reading the genealogy, you will see that Esau preceded Jacob, and John preceded Jesus, both born miraculously. Isaac's wife was barren for 20 years until he prayed. Jesus was born of a virgin, transcending the distinction between man and woman. I am all the characters in the Bible, representations of divine imaginative activity. Everyone who is born physically, like Esau, must be separated to give way to the birth of the Son of God, without limits in his transparency or expansion. Now, let us enter into silence.